everyone, welcome to Watch It Paint It. Today I'm going to be painting some scenery, some chests. Now these are the chests from Massive Darkness, but I think this method could be applied to any chest that looks similar or any full stop. Same as you can steal the highlighting or painting method from the barrels I did absolutely ages ago if you prefer how that's done. But I'll just show you how I do the chest. So I'm starting outside, blue tack them all down to a nice bit of cardboard, surrounded with some more cardboard so my spray doesn't go everywhere. And then I'm using Army Painter's Leather Brown colour primer, and I'm going to apply that to the chest, so it's basically most of the chest done straight away. So starting with spraying off of the chest to get the flow going, make sure it doesn't splurt anywhere, and then I'm just going to gently move from side to side, a couple of layers, making sure I get some on the top as well, and that's them all based in brown straight away. Most of the job's done, so pretty good, pretty happy with that. And I'm just showing you what they look like once they're primed. And that's the wood or painted colour primer, saving me loads of time there, especially if it's something you really don't care about. It's a no-brainer to use colour primer. I'm then going to start painting in the base for the metals. I'm going to start with Machinegun metal by the Army Painter, and I'm just going to use my detail brush and carefully go over all of the metal on all four sides of the chest. It's a little bit time consuming, this bit's quite slow, but you know, I've just saved a massive time painting all the brown, and I'm going to save a few more minutes as you'll see later in the video. So I just thought I'd show you me painting it in silver. I'm sure you guys can all see the metal on it and do exactly the same, but that's what it looks like with Machinegun metal as the chosen colour. I thought what I'd do with mine is I just want all of my chests to look slightly different, so I'm going to paint them all slightly different. Just using my hobby holder. I'm just using the base of the hobby holder for this. Now I think the bottle cap alone is good enough, but I've got a hobby holder and it just gives me that additional grip. You can see my fingers just being able to apply pressure over a larger area there. So I'm now going to paint some of my chests in rough iron. This is another metallic by the Army Painter. It's quite a dark irony colour. It's not as, I prefer it to be silver to be honest. This is a bit close to tinny tin. I'm not really sure what the difference is. I just wanted a really dark silver, and this isn't a really dark silver. It's like a cast iron colour. It's exactly the same technique, exactly the same places. Just showing you how that colour looks now. It's base coated, and I'm going to do five of those in that colour, 5 in silver. Again, just swapping out. I've got multiple bottle caps. All of these chests are on a bottle cap. I'm just going to keep pulling them in, swiveling them on, and carrying on. So on this one, I'm going to choose Hammered Copper. That's by Vallejo. It's a copper colour, it's a metallic, and I'm just going to paint another 5 in this. So I'm choosing 3 different coloured chests, just changing the metal. I could have changed the wood as well. I think that would be really interesting. You could paint all different textures and colours of brown for the chest, but you know that would sort of defeat the purpose of saving loads and loads of time using the colour primer. So it's up to you. If you want them all to look even more unique, choose some different colours. Choose dark flesh tone, terracotta, desert sand, you know, like all the different, you can have yellow browns, red browns, brown browns, get a nice mixture of different colours, woods underneath. And that's all the level 1 chests done. So I'm just going to show you quickly what I'm doing with the level 2 ones. Although they're a different sculpt, I've still sprayed them in the same colour, but I am going to use a different metallic. This is Bright Gold by the Army Painter. I'm going to make them just look a little bit fancy, a little bit more expensive, I guess, just by using gold as the metal on this one, and that's mainly just to make it stand out a little bit better on the board. And again, still adds variety. It makes it a little bit more interesting. But that's what it looks like with the base coat done. I mean, so I'm stopping at each step here. I'm showing you at any point you could just stop. So that has not taken me a lot of time, and they look so much better than the base plastic. So you could stop at that point if that's enough. For the first time, I'm going to use Quick Shade. There's the dark tone, so that's like the black shade from the Army Painter. And that's just because I don't care a lot about these models. They're just scenery, and I wanted to shade them very, very quickly. This took me, you know, all 15 of these took a couple of minutes maximum, using a little tool I have for taking screws out of things, but a pair of pliers, anything you could grip it with, just to dunk it in for a quick second will get the shade everywhere you want. Then I'm just using a cheap paintbrush to take off some excess that I didn't want sat there. You could completely miss out this step if you care less than I do about them looking super, super fancy. Then you could skip this bit and save yourself another minute or 2. But you can see this isn't taking me a lot of time. Just quickly, just soaking up a little bit of that wash, and then just dabbing it on the kitchen towel underneath. Just showing you the same process. I did exactly the same for the gold. Just grip them, gave them a quick dunk, quick shake, and then chuck them on some kitchen towel to soak up any excess. And this is how the Machinegun metal version looks straight after that. You could be done now. This is taking you a few minutes to do that. Rough iron, same process, looks same, different metals, just going to look a bit different on the board. Again, you could just be done. If this is as far as you want to go, you've spent maybe 5 to 10 minutes maximum per chest. You've done the whole set in an hour sort of thing. And again, just showing you hammered copper there and the gold level 2 chests. All looking pretty neat and could be finished if you don't want to go into the detailing. But I will show you the detailing, just showing you what you could gain. So I'm using Vallejo's Desert Yellow. So that's the yellowy brown. And just to add a highlight, I'm just dry brushing this on as carefully as I can. But make sure we do this before we highlight any of the metals or do any of the work with the metal, because you are going to catch it with some of this yellow and just dull it down a little. After that, I'm doing something else new on the channel. I'm going to be using Typhus Corrosion. So that's a technical paint by Citadel, and it's a sort of really dirty, gritty paint. It's got grit in it. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's lumps and bumps in this paint. So I'm just using another brush I don't care too much about, and just very carefully applying this to anywhere I think the chest could be dirty. So sort of around the bottom and on the metal, where it might just have gathered a bit of water, and I'm going to rust it later as well. So this is, because of the grit, this allows us to apply some rust to it, where we can dry brush rust over it, and it will catch on the grit in this Typhus Corrosion. So I'm just showing you after it's dried how it looks. So this chest looks quite dirty, especially around the bottom where it would be sat on the floor in the mud, dragged through water, that sort of thing. Next up is Ryza Rust. This is another technical paint by Citadel, and this is a very, very gloopy, dry. It's a dry paint for dry brushing. So I'm using my dry brush here, and I'm just very, very carefully scraping it across. Straight away I realised this dry brush is too big and it's too sort of wiry. The end's ruined basically. So I'm just switching down to my smaller one with a sharper point, and I'm just carrying on, just very, very carefully scraping this across that Typhus Corrosion. It will catch on any of the edges of the metal as well, but it will also catch on all the little bits of grit in the Typhus Corrosion and really give it a nice rusty effect where I want it to. I'm going to just do the same with the rough iron. That previous was the gunmetal, and this is the rough iron version, just showing you how it looks, just letting you see what's going on as best I can. With the gunmetal version, I'm just going to take Claymore blade, the lighter silver from the army painter, and just highlight up some of the areas I think people would be touching. So sort of the handles, the edges of the chest, the sides, just anywhere the light A might be catching, or B, someone's been using the hinges. If it's ever been opened, they would be a lot cleaner than the rest. So that was just a final highlight on the silver version. With the hammered copper, I'm going to do slightly different. I'm going to use the Typhus Corrosion just near the edges of the metal, just as though the wood's sort of dirty. I'm just using that as a dirt effect. And then I'm going to use Nihilakh, don't know how you pronounce that, Nihilakh Oxide. And this is to tarnish copper. It's more like a wash, and I'm just trying to get it in between all the gaps of where two pieces of metal join, so like the hinges, the handle, and then over this chest there's several places where metal are joined, and I think the corrosion would possibly form there, so I'm just putting it there, as well as in the bottom corners. Let's just take a quick glance at how they look at the end. So this is the gunmetal version, the silver version. I think that looks pretty rusty. It's very tarnished, very weathered. I'm pretty happy with that. But what I did do, I didn't mention as I was going through, but I'm going to do them all differently. Some with more rust, some with less rust. So this is with rust and a lot more of that Typhus corrosion in the corners to try and give it more of a dirty look. I've left a couple of them completely untouched. Look very clean. After all this work, I'm probably just as happy with the clean ones as I am with the extra work on the rust, but they do look nice together and they're all slightly different. It just makes it a little bit more realistic. So although I wouldn't want to do all of them because I don't think it was worth it, I'm glad I've done some. I do think it adds a little bit of realism, a little bit more, it makes you more immersed in the game. And this is the rough iron version. It's just showing you one with the Typhus corrosion and the Ryza Rust on it. That one's just got Ryza Rust. I didn't use Typhus corrosion. It looks slightly different. I don't think that version looks as good. And then I've just left the other three just plain, nice and blank. after this video, I did actually go back and add some Typhus Corrosion to one of those just to mix it up a little bit more as well. Again, just a bit of variety. And this is the hammered copper version with the Nihilakh Oxide. And again, this one's got Typhus Corrosion. Some I've added Typhus Corrosion, some I haven't. Some have got more of the oxide than others. This one's got a lot less. It's just in various places. Again, just a little bit of variety, and I think when they're all together on the board, we've got a big pile to choose from, just makes it a little bit more interesting. So it's worth a little bit of time. But I mean, let us know in the comments. What do you think? Do you think it was worth it, or have I done the right thing? Just chosen a few of them just to add a little bit of variety. This one, just the Typhus Corrosion. I think that one looks really good. I'm happy with that. I don't really like the oxide that much. Maybe that's the problem. And then I've just left this one completely plain, so that's straight after the dry brushing. So that's all of those guys. And then this is the gold version, the level 2 chest, and that's with a desert yellow dry brush, as I showed before. And I've done this one with the dark flesh tone, so I've made it more ready, just a little bit more interesting. I'm not going to add any corrosion to these because I want them to look more expensive, well looked after. They've got fancy stuff in it. We want those fancy items. And then just at the end, just showing you them all together. And look, they're all sort of individually different, and I think that makes the game more immersive. It looks a lot more realistic. I'm happy. Spent a little bit more time corroding, adding some weathering to some of them, but I think it was worth it overall. And the amount of time I saved using that colour primer and the dip with the wash, you know, I could afford to do this. And it gets to show you some new technical paints. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching.